parents take sister on vacation instead of me. Later on, she ruined family vacation and got arrested. My name is Naomi, 24 years old, born and raised in a small town in northern Illinois, where the winters were cold enough to freeze every emotion, and the summers were so hot that the silence in my family exploded without anyone needing to say a word. My house is always like that, silent and unfair. But injustice is not about violence or harshness, but because of the invisible bias. Deviance is disguised as blind love. Madison, my younger sister, is the only light that my parents pay attention to. I don't say that in a childishly jealous way. I say that as someone who has tried to love, tried to get along, and been stabbed in the back many times with a smile. My parents had Madison after 3 miscarriages. My mother almost died on the birthing table. When Madison was born, they called it God's miracle. And since then, that miracle has become excuse for all the sins it causes. When I was 13 years old, I gave my mother a hand-drawn picture of her hugging both sisters. It took me almost a month to complete it. Mom hung it up, exactly one day. When Madison saw it, she sneered and said, "Ugly as hell," ripped the picture in half in front of me. My mother just said, "You're still young, he doesn't know how to appreciate it yet." I was silent. At that time, I realized, in my house, pain is never called by its right name. It's covered in excuses. Madison grew up as a child who knew how to control other people's emotions. It doesn't require yelling or beating, it just takes acting. Once I lost her necklace, actually Madison herself hid it. She sobbed, hugged her mother and said, "I just want to be like you. But why do you always hate me?" I was detained for 2 weeks. No one asked me any questions. No one believed that Madison could lie. By the time I was in 12th grade, things got out of hand. I applied to the Art Institute of Chicago, something I had dreamed about all my childhood. I received a letter of admission. That day I planned to make an announcement during dinner. But Madison announced it first, that she failed her audition for the school's ballet team. Mother hugged him, cried along, and said, "It's okay, you're my little angel." I sat there, my acceptance letter still in my pocket. No one asked me a word. No one knows. No one needs to know. I put that letter in a drawer. 3 days later, Madison searched my desk and read it. He laughed, then said softly, "It's fun. But Mom will never pay for me to study art. I know why." It's true. I went to a public school, worked part-time, and eventually graduated with a teaching degree. Not because I chose that profession, but because it was the path. The least disappointing for my mother. I left home, moved to the suburbs of Milwaukee, and taught high school literature. Every year I called to wish, tet, and birthday. They were all responded with an absent-minded voice from their father or a few short messages from their mother. Madison has never responded to any of my messages. I used to think, maybe one day my family will realize I'm part of it too. But then that year came. That year, they went on vacation together without saying a word to me. An old friend of my mother, Mrs. Charlene, called and told me, "Aren't you going to Hawaii with your parents? Your mom posted a picture of the whole family." I thought she was wrong. I've never heard anything about that trip. I opened Facebook, and it was as she said. My mother posted a picture, all 3 of them smiling brightly on the beach. Without me. No explanation. I called back. Mother said in a slightly surprised voice, "Ah, I thought you were busy. You're usually busy." I smiled faintly. "I'm part of the family too, remember, Mom?" Mother did not answer. Dad kept talking about the weather. "What about Madison?" He sent me a picture. The 3 of them holding up cocktail glasses. Caption, "Family time." Nothing added, no invitation, no apology. I get it. They chose, and I was, as always, left behind. I thought I was used to the pain. But no. There is a kind of dull pain when the person you love makes a choice to turn away to me. But no matter how many years, it doesn't make you immune. When I found out that my parents and Madison had gone to Hawaii together without telling me a word, I didn't cry. I just sat there, on the kitchen floor of my small apartment in Milwaukee, watching the sunlight stream through the window, and laughed. A kind of bitter laugh, as if every hope there had been had now been capped, sealed, and thrown into the river. I didn't text or call back, but memorize. And then it started falling apart, piece by piece, as if God had finally decided to peel off the masks someone had worn for too long. 3 days later, I received a text message from my mother. "Your father is not feeling well. It seems his blood pressure is up again, probably because he's tired." I texted back immediately, "Do you need me to fly over?" She just replied, "No need. Just rest." I know my father has a history of high blood pressure and arrhythmia. After her hospitalization 2 years ago, the doctor prescribed regular medication, ordered light exercise, and checked her blood pressure every morning. I was worried he wouldn't comply, but Mom said Madison often reminded him to take his medicine. I believed that until I heard the news from my Aunt Emma, who lives on Kauai, where my parents are vacationing. She called me late one night. "Naomi, there's something strange. Your sister Madison has been acting very strangely lately. Your mother said your father lost his medicine and someone hid it in Madison's suitcase. I stopped. What's yes? She wanted to borrow sunscreen, rummaged through its suitcase, then found an entire bottle of medicine hidden in a locked bag. Not just once, many bottles. I almost gripped the phone so tightly that my hand went numb. Aunt Emma continued. Madison didn't deny it, she just glared at her mother and said, "Then don't let him need medicine anymore." I don't remember clearly what my reaction was at that time. Just know that, deep in my chest, there's a feeling broken. Madison is not an innocent, spoiled child. It knows exactly what I'm doing, and what's worse, it does in my parents' absolute protection. I called my mother the next day. Mom, I heard about medicine. Yes. Do you understand what that means? Naomi, I'm shocked too. But maybe she's just... Only what? Just hiding the medicine to see if Dad will collapse? To test the feeling of power? Or to spite Dad for planning to let me go with him? My mother was silent. For the first time in her life, she didn't immediately defend him. Madison is manipulating our whole family. I've been trying to say it for 10 years, but you never believed it. Now do you see? Mother's voice trembled. She threw the phone, hit the table, cursed her father as a traitor for daring to choose me over him. I laughed dryly. I was never chosen, Mom. I was never a choice. The next day, Madison arrested. It's not because of the drugs, but because she lost control at the hotel, cursed at the staff, broke vases, and resisted the police when they came to intervene. Detained for 24 hours. My mother did not give details, just saying, the police took him away. They said if he did it again, he would prosecute him. I should be gloating. But no. I see tired. Tired of knowing this in advance of warning and of it's too late. A week later, Mom and Dad returned from Hawaii, not because the vacation was over, but because Madison steals their passports. Stuck. No paperwork, no bank cards. Madison kept it all. Mom called me for help. Naomi, I know you're angry, but can you help us? I sent money and rebooked airline tickets through Western Union. My parents were silent the whole flight. Mom recounted, Madison sarcastically said to her, I should have abandoned her sooner. Like the way I always did, but didn't dare say it directly. And she couldn't argue. Returning home, Madison continued to destroy, scream, break mirrors, and tear curtains. She locks her room door, plays loud music every night, hides her car keys, and acts like a parent live in constant stress. I called. Dad, who once called me a too sensitive child, whispered, I'm sorry, Naomi. Dad, I was wrong. I told you before, but you didn't listen. I bit my lip. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I couldn't hold them back. It's not because I want to be right, Dad. It's because I just want to be seen. A week later, Madison threatened my mother with a knife, asked her cut off all contact with me. The police were called. This time, there is no mercy. She was arrested and officially charged, threaten, and attack relatives. My parents finally did something they had never thought of. They filed to evict their youngest daughter from the house. After several weeks, court papers were issued. Madison must leave the house within 15 days. There are no options, no reason, no begging. My dad said, Dad is no longer a heroic father in his eyes, but at least, Dad can be a brave father in your eyes. I said nothing, because for once, I don't have to claim beloved again. Spring in Milwaukee comes as if God is whispering to the city. Everything will bloom, no matter how many times it freezes. But in my third-floor apartment, I'm not sure that's still true. 3 weeks after Madison was arrested and ordered by the court to leave home, my parents arrived in Milwaukee. They said they just wanted to stay for a few days to rest. But I know they came for something else. They come to sorry. I picked them up at the bus station, not the airport, partly because they said they wanted to go by road to think, partly because I knew planes are fast, but they don't help anyone escape the feeling of guilt. Mom walked down first. She looks 10 years older. The eyes of someone who was always certain are now filled with doubt. Dad followed behind, holding an old suitcase, eyes red as if he had just had a fever. No one hugged me. No one said, "Girl." We just looked at each other, as if the three of us had known each other in another life. For my first dinner, I cooked grilled lemon chicken, baked potatoes, and green vegetables, a dish my mother taught me to make when I was 12 years old. The only difference is, this time I didn't ask, does it taste good? Because I don't need confirmation anymore. The meal passed almost in silence, until Dad put down the knife and fork, his back slightly bent forward. Naomi? Dad. I don't know where to start. From wherever Dad used to be quiet. Dad looked at me, not angry, no resistance, just silence. Then he said in a voice I had never heard before, "We didn't see you, Naomi, just didn't see you." My mother put her hands on the table. Her hands trembled. Eyes do not dare to look straight. Mom loved Madison so much that she thought protecting her meant protecting the whole family. I laugh like someone who just listened to an old song that made him cry. No, Mom protected Madison by sacrificing her. I know, And I'm sorry. But some apologies, no matter how sincere, cannot turn back time. Can't erase the birthdays I ate alone. I can't make up for the picture I painted with all my nostalgia, then it was torn apart without hesitation. Can't make me forget the first time I dared to tell my mom about Madison, threatening to tell me all the secrets I wrote in my diary. And she just replied, "Two sisters need to learn to love each other." I stood up and poured more water. My mother said softly, as if afraid that even the air might shatter, "Can you forgive?" I looked straight at her, first time, and I replied, "I forgive, but I don't forget." We sat back. For the first time in many years, I talk about it. Loneliness is called family. I told about the night Madison locked me outside the door in the snow because I dared to say no to her. About how Madison once borrowed my computer, intentionally deleted her college essay, and then blamed it on hackers. About everything I swallowed, because no one wants to hear about an older sister who is always jealous of her younger sister. My parents cried, but no objections, no denial. Dad said, "I used to think you were a difficult, stubborn child. Now I understand you're just trying to survive in your house." Mom put her head down on the table. "My child, I have made you a witness to deception for 20 years. I said nothing, because there are no words that are enough for the pain that is legitimized by love. The next day, we went for a walk in the lakeside park. Dad told me that he once reread the letter I sent in 10th grade, the letter I wrote placed on my mother's bed after an argument with Madison. In the letter I wrote, "If I disappeared, it would be a relief for the whole family. But I still hope that one day you will say one thing to me, the way you used to say to Madison every night. I love you." Dad trembled. "I never knew that letter existed. Your mother didn't give it to me." I nodded. "I know." That night, my mother asked permission to sleep separately. Dad stayed in the living room. He asked me, "Naomi, if you had the chance to come back, would you want to be our child again?" I looked at him, so long, then say, "I will still choose to be your child, but I hope, next time, you will choose to see you." The next morning, my mother left a note in the kitchen. The writing is shaky but clear. I know, there are cracks that cannot be healed with words. But I will never stop trying, not to be forgiven, but so that you no longer have to struggle to be an adult from the age of 7. They left that afternoon. I don't see you off. But I stood by the window, watching their car turn around and slowly merge into the crowd. I suddenly realized, perhaps, this was the first time in my life, watching my parents leave without feeling empty. I used to think forgiveness would be the end. But it turns out, forgiveness is just that first line, between a survivor and a family still struggling to find a way to survive. After my parents left Milwaukee, I thought they would avoid contact with Madison for a while. I'm wrong. Less than a week later, they called to say they were planning to see Madison again. We wanted to see if she was ready to talk. Talk? About him hiding drugs, threatening to kill his mother, or hiding his passport. My mother's voice became smaller. "Naomi, she is still my child." I interrupted, not angry, just desperate. "I understand, but please, don't let it drag your parents to drown with you." Madison was at her friend's house at the time, or rather, stay temporarily in a place no one can control. After being ordered by the court to leave home, he refused to go to the hospital for treatment, nor did he return to school. She cut off all contact with relatives, blocked her mother's number, and even posted a 6-minute video online, accusing her parents of being cold, hating, and expelling their biological daughter. That video has nearly 20,000 views. Comments are divided into two camps. One side calls him a victim, the other calls him a professional manipulator. I don't watch. I don't need to see another Madison version of the victim. Parents still try. They find a lawyer, find a therapist. They made a plan to contact Madison again through an intermediary, the counselor who met her at the Juvenile Crisis Center 3 years ago. I don't object. I only ask one thing. Don't mention me. Don't drag me into it. And then what I feared happened. One night, I received a text message from an unknown number. "Are you happy? You won? I lost everything." Representative photo is Madison. The next message was a picture of a hanging rope. "I'm not panicking. Don't call." I immediately send that photo to the police, along with the address of Madison's friend's house, thanks to her parents providing it before. 3 hours later, the police called back, saying they found Madison in a state deck. Lightly hand-cut, shows signs of discoloration, not life-threatening, but extremely mentally unstable. My mother cried endlessly, "Naomi, if anything happens to her, then the person responsible is himself." I'm not cold. I'm just too tired to bear the sins of others. Police kept Madison in a mental hospital for 72 hours under an emergency protective order. Then, the doctor recommended it long-term inpatient treatment for behavior that endangers himself and others. Madison refused. The institute cannot keep her. And again, she disappeared. In the weeks that followed, my mother kept calling. My parents are worried about where he is sleeping, how he is eating. I can't help anymore, Mom. I'm no longer the savior. I'm no longer the anchor holding this family together. I teach. I keep the habit of exercising every morning, cooking, reading books. I started attending a therapy group for children of deviant parents. There, I met Miriam, 36 years old, who had been beaten by her older brother throughout her childhood, but her parents only called it brotherly love. She said, "I used to think if I forgive, the family will heal. But then I understand. Sometimes what needs to be forgiven is not others, but myself. Forgive me for staying too long." One day, I received a parcel. No sender address. Inside was a handwritten letter. No name, but the handwriting I recognized immediately. "Naomi, everyone always says she's good. She has always chosen to be right. I don't. I'm never good enough. Even if you do everything right, you're still the one being hated. I don't need your forgiveness. I just want you to know. If one day I really disappear, it will be because of me. I chose to leave a stage where I could never play the main role." No tears, no pain. I just folded the letter and put it in the drawer. A few days later, my mother announced, "Madison has been in touch. She's in Oregon temporarily living with a community group. They provide psychological support using non-traditional methods." I was silent. Then I asked, "What are you going to do, Mom and Dad?" Mother replied, "We can't bring it back. We can only let go." I'm not saying I gave up a long time ago. I just knew, for the first time, my mother's saying, "Do not use the words save." That evening, I walked around the lake as usual. Milwaukee's sky turned a muted purple. I sat down on the old chair where my father used to chat when I took the university entrance exam. And I understand one thing. I no longer expect Madison to change. I just hope for her stop where you can't hurt anyone anymore. We are no longer a complete family. But at least now, I have a part that I can keep. Peaceful. There is a silent paradox in family life. People often think that if they give up, they have failed. But sometimes, not letting go is what kills everything. I thought I had to fight until Madison changed. Until parents see all the truth clearly. Until I was returned to a fair position in the family. But then I understood. Fairness is not a thing be returned, which is the thing I keep it to myself by not stepping into the quagmire again. That summer, for the first time in many years, I found myself not carrying the weight of the name Big Sister. Don't carry the burden of expectations. There's no need to be a peacekeeper on a battlefield I didn't create. I live. Relieved. My parents returned to their daily lives in their hometown of Illinois. They no longer mentioned Madison every time they called. No longer sent pictures from Facebook as a hidden message, "You are still my brother." Now they called to tell me that my father started growing tomatoes, that my mother learned to make whole wheat bread. They lived as if for the first time, knowing how to care for each other. Not because of their children, not because of their reputation, but because they want to survive a storm, even though they lost a few roof tiles. One Sunday morning, my mother called. "Naomi, you know, your dad just cut a ripe tomato for the first time." He smiled like a child. I smiled, sitting in my kitchen peeling apples. "That's good, Mom. I just bought a pot of basil. I can exchange it for some tomatoes." My mother was silent for a moment, then said, "Do you want to come back to play in the fall? Not for anyone else, just for you." I didn't answer right away. I looked out the window, the sun shining through the trees, and realized I was no longer afraid to go home. "Let me think more, Mom. No rush, do not force. It doesn't have to be a miracle. Madison, for now, still lives far away, somewhere around Portland, Oregon. I don't know clearly. I don't need it. I heard she lives in a healing retreat community, where people use clay, music, and meditation to heal. She didn't contact me back, didn't call her parents, but send them a postcard, hand-drawn with just 3 words, "I'm still here." My mother sent me a picture of that postcard via text message. No annotations included. "Do not call for forgiveness." I read, then deleted the photo, not out of hate, but because I choose not to keep it things that aren't ready to return properly. Once, in a group therapy session, a woman named Caroline, about 50 years old, shared, "I used to want to save my sister from addiction, until I realized I don't need to save anyone. I just need the day. Don't sink with someone who doesn't want to float." That sentence stayed with me many months later. I started writing a diary again, something I had abandoned in 12th grade, when Madison stole it and read it during meals. Now, I write not to confide in, but to certification. That I am living, choosing, writing my own story, and no one has the right to edit it from the beginning. One day, I taught a literature class on the topic symbolism in literature. I asked students, "In your opinion, what is the symbol of liberation?" A student, bright eyes, said, "I think that's when the character no longer needs saving. When they walk on their own, even though no one calls their name." I almost burst into tears. I don't need a miracle. I used to be the kid sitting outside my door praying that Madison would change, that Mom would see me as someone worthy, that Dad would hug me for no reason. Now I no longer need that to survive. I took my bike for a walk around the lake. The wind blew through my hair. My heart is empty, but not empty. I think of Madison, not with hatred, but with a strange pity. I thought, maybe my brother never want to be healed. And also, the best thing I can do for it is don't try to save it anymore. One evening, my father called. Naomi, I don't think you need to come home unless you really want to, but we will always have a place for you. If not in the house, then in our hearts. I replied, I know, but I don't need a place anymore, Dad. I have the whole world to myself now. I closed that year's diary with a sentence. I survived, not because of anyone else, not because of a miracle, but because I let go before I was swallowed whole. There are days when I wake up and feel nothing special, no feeling of healing. There was no burst of joy because the incident had been overcome, no magical glow of a happy ending, just a normal morning. The sun shines through the curtains, drip coffee, and my heart no longer trembling. And I suddenly understood, that is the sign of freedom. No climax, no rescue. Just a mind that had quieted down after so many years of living in screams that were forced to be swallowed down. Since the day I refused to return home, my mother never mentioned inviting me again. Instead, she calls every weekend, not for big news, not for any special reason. Just to ask, what did you eat this morning? What's the weather like for you today? I just reread the short story you wrote in 9th grade. I'm still haunted. At first, I didn't know what to do with such small pieces of interest. They were nothing like what I had asked for, an apology, recognition, or an act of reparation. They are not grandiose, not emotional, no burst. They were just quiet, regular. And perhaps that's why they're real. I continue to teach. It's still the literature teacher with the pencil always in her ear, still the one who always asks students. The character's feeling is not the answer, it's the opening question. A student asked me once, have you ever hated someone forever? I was going to answer yes, instinctively. But then I thought about Madison, and I said no, but you can stop loving someone if it's necessary to protect yourself. Madison still hasn't gotten back in touch. My parents told me she had moved to a small town near Eugene, working part-time in a community bookstore. No one knows more. And for the first time in 10 years, my parents didn't ask my opinion about whether I should visit or not. They understood. I was not the one who held approval in the house. Nor is it the person responsible, brings the whole family together. I'm just me, and I'm not Sister of Miracles. One night, after going to the theater with my colleagues, I came home late. It rained. I opened my laptop and was about to write a few lines when I saw a strange email. No title. Nameless. No signature. Just one line. I don't know what I am in your story, but I know you are always the main character in your own story. I hope you continue to write. I don't answer. No need. Not sure if it's from Madison. But there's no need to know for sure, because what I see in my heart is calm. I never want Madison to disappear from this world. I just want her to go away villain in my memory, and maybe somehow she's learning to do the same. In September, I accepted an invitation to present at a regional education conference. Theme: teaching literature is not to analyze, but to save souls who no longer believe that their stories deserve to be told. I stood on stage, looked at hundreds of teachers listening, and told the story of a child who was once called jealous, was pushed into the role of reacting, had his words torn, his pictures torn, his beliefs torn apart, but in the end still continued to write. Because if we don't write, the memory will write us. If we don't tell, the pain will tell in its own way, and it's never kind. At the end of the talk, a young teacher approached. Miss Naomi, I used to think I was just an extra person in the family. After today, I think I'm a survivor. Thank you. I hugged her. It's not like someone who goes first comforts someone who comes behind, but like two people who survive together, understand together. No one wins, just no longer has to lose. At the end of fall, I decided to return to my hometown. Not home, but hometown cemetery. I visited my grandmother's grave, the only person who ever stood up for me without me presenting evidence. Parents come along. No one mentioned Madison. We just stood there, 3 people, silent. The cold wind blew through the pine trees, and I realized silence is no longer as scary as it used to be. It's no longer where I'm locked up, which is where I choose to stand. That evening, my mother pulled out an old photo. Me and Madison when I was in 7th grade, she was in 2nd grade. The two of us sat on the porch, coloring together. Mom said, I don't know when things started going wrong, but I regret not fixing it while I could. I nodded. It's okay, Mom. We don't need to fix it now. Just don't do it again. I returned to Milwaukee. One night, I dreamed that I was standing in my old kitchen at home. Not a child trembling waiting to be asked, are you okay? But an adult coming in, opening the refrigerator, pouring water, and leave without being called back to explain. I woke up. Smile. Because I know, I don't need Madison to apologize. No need for parents to kneel down, no need for anything. Because I was come out of that story and take no more roles with you. We don't win, we just no longer have to lose. And for the survivors, that is enough. How long have you lived as a victim, to the point of forgetting who you were without being hurt? I once asked myself that, on a terrifyingly quiet night. No drama, no memories of chasing, no sound of mother calling, no threatening emails from Madison. Nothing. It's just me. And peace. And it is that peace that confuses me the most. I spent my entire youth struggling to escape a family that didn't see me. My whole life has revolved around Madison, whether resisting, running away, or waiting for an apology that never came. Now, when I don't have to suffer anymore, I don't know where to start. Peaceful without drama. It did not have an applauding audience. There is no sad background music playing like a movie. Just wake up in the morning, make coffee, clean the table, listen to soft music, and no one in my head screams anymore. One morning, while folding laundry, I suddenly burst out laughing because of a strange thought. If I had no more suffering, would I have anything left to write about? I used to think my creativity was born from trauma, but now I see clearly. I don't need pain as fuel anymore. I have a life, and it's complicated enough to exploit. I started trying things I'd been putting off. Write poetry, not for publication, but because you want to. Practicing yoga, not because of trends, but because my body deserves to be left alone. Take a painting class with old ladies, and laugh out loud when paint is splashed in your hair. For the first time, I lived without acting at all. Not an abandoned child. Don't be a survivor of a toxic family. Not being the sister of the disordered. Just Naomi. One person. One soul. A teacher. A womaning to believe that she is no longer a character in someone else's story. One winter afternoon, I happened to meet the old neighbor, who used to live downstairs when I was a student. He asked, "What have you been writing lately?" I replied, "I write about silence. Not someone's silence, but the silence after stopping waiting for an apology." He laughed. "You know, that silence is not the end. It is the foundation for you to rebuild your own voice." I started talking to myself more. Not the type of heavy dialogue. It's a healthy dialogue. "Naomi, how are you feeling today?" "Okay. A bit slow, but okay." "Do you need anyone to acknowledge you?" "No," I admitted it myself. One day I wrote this down in my diary. I don't need a villain to prove I am a righteous person. I don't need anyone to hurt me anymore to see that I'm strong. And I cry. No sobbing, just overwhelmed, as if my soul had just breathed a sigh of relief. One time, a colleague told a story about her sister who was an addict and made her parents suffer. She said, "I hate myself because sometimes I feel relieved when you're gone." I said nothing, just lightly touched her shoulder, and in my heart I thought, I understand. Understand, as if that story also had my name in it. I don't need Madison to disappear. I just need myself to stop disappearing because of Madison. Spring comes. My class organized a creative project called Story I Want to Tell. Each student gets to choose a memory, turning it into a short 3-minute speech. A student, the quietest in the class, walked up and pulled out a wrinkled piece of paper. When I was 10 years old, I thought I was invisible. I was in the house, but no one asked me if I was hungry. I studied well, but no one asked me why I studied. I used to think I was a supporting character in my house. But now I don't need anyone for the main role anymore. I act myself. The whole class was silent. "Then clap your hands." I stood there, hands clenched, because I saw my 10-year-old self, in her words. I don't know what Madison is like now. Maybe she's better, maybe not yet. But I know this. I don't hate her. I don't love her. I let her return to her rightful place in my heart, a supporting character in an old chapter. My mother called and said, "Your dad just bought a ticket to Nashville and plans to drive down this summer. Do you want to go with him?" I smiled. "Maybe. But if I don't go, Mom and Dad will still go. I don't want to be the condition for everyone to bond anymore." Mother smiled softly. "It's not a bond this time. It's just, there's room in the car if you want it. No one needs to prove anything." I nodded. That is the family I choose to keep.